Welcome to the NBA Coast to Coast podcast brought to you by thelines.com. Coming to you from the West Coast, Josh Lander, joined by Nate Weitzer on the East Coast. And we're flying high here already in 2024, feeling pretty good about a 7-3 night there on Tuesday. I don't know about you, Nate, but I saw a lot of people on like NBA Twitter and the like that were like, this is the worst NBA night ever. I got crushed. And I'm like, I don't know. We did pretty well last night. Maybe we were swimming upstream, but we did win about 3.5 units for you guys. So we'll continue to crush these things here on Wednesday night with a pretty big slate after another decent sized slate in the NBA. We have best bets in this video. We also have a play of props video up as we do each and every weekday. So continue to follow along and like that page and subscribe to that page as well. Also want you to head to thelines.com, use everything we're putting up on the site right now, and that odds finder tool that we have up there to make sure you're getting the best juice on all of these bets that you're making in the NBA this season. Nate, let's go ahead and get right into your first best bet and keep the good times rolling.
I guess those folks faded SGA. Probably not a good idea. I mean, that was responsible for a lot of our wins there last night. Him and Embiid very clearly the MVP front runners right now. Embiid coming back, covering against the Bulls, but just barely with that back door being open, which was a weird result. But anyway, yeah, moving on to Wednesday here. Huge slate. Clippers at Suns, and I'll take the Clippers money line with the under. It's 233 and just dropping a couple points here. Once again, bring up that you can get the original line at FanDuel for Clippers actually as dogs plus 1.5 and the under 234. And now the Clippers are minus 3.5 when it's become very clear that Kevin Durant is not going to play here and that the Clippers have advantages all over the floor. The Clippers, with Kawhi back, are once again looking like an elite team. And they lost consecutive games, won in embarrassing fashion to the Celtics, but that was without Kawhi. And now they won 2 without him. And then with him back against the Heat, just an elite defensive performance, right? Holding Hero, the Heat's top scorer, to 4 for 13, did not make a 2-point field goal, and finished minus 29. And now they're going to try to sick those wing defenders on Devin Booker, who's not going to have much help. Bradley Beal still not healthy. Suns supporting cast is part of the reason Durant was, showing such bad body language and not playing that well before he went out here. And I don't think that there's anything to really read into the fact that the Suns are 4-1 without KD this season. I think that's a lot of situational stuff. Their defensive rating, 8 points better because of the quality of opponents they played. They are scoring less, getting fewer assists because teams don't have to double. As good as Booker is, he's not the same gravitas as Kevin Durant, who even Kawhi Leonard cannot just match up on, right? I mean, the Clips can throw Kawhi or PG at Book, do a pretty good job. In fact, they have his last regular season 8 games against the Clips, under 22 a game with a 108 offensive rating, and under 5 assists per game. So I don't see Book going off in this spot. He did go off in the playoffs against them last year, but that was after Kawhi went out, right? In the first 2, Book had a really bad game in game 1. He bounced back game 2, but on the other side, Kawhi, 35 points per game with a 133 rating, right? He was dominating that series. He's fully capable of dominating the Suns team, even though he hadn't had much regular season success against them, which makes me think about the under here. I mean, Clippers are a team that you take unders with, right? 17-9 to the under since they acquired James Harden. There was a brief lull in there for a while where they had the worst defensive rating, but they've righted the ship here. And the Suns, since their 7-game win streak ended, 9-4 to the under. Their offense, not great. It's not going to be any better without Kevin Durant.
No, it's not. The Suns are in trouble, to be honest with you. I mean, at least relative to the expectations for this super team. Obviously, Bradley Beal barely playing at all is a big part of it. But yeah, once you get KD out too, now I'm like, I do love targeting unders. We did this with the Suns when KD was out against the Kings, and we also targeted an under there, put that in the best bets because of the same concept. Like Bradley Beal's in, so you have 2 dudes who can score. Nurk is Nurk, about 13 points or so. And then what are you going to get from Grayson Allen and company? No Damian Lee, at least one less shooter on the floor. I mean, Kawhi being in there is huge for all of this. Their defensive rating is so much better with Kawhi in there this season, roughly 10 points better than the games that he's missed. So there's plenty of reason to like this. I'm on the Clippers as well. It's just I was looking at it last night and I was like, there's no injury report for the Clippers. It feels like there could just be some random additions there at the end. Like I don't know how I'm going to get screwed by them, but in the meantime, this is definitely a good bet. So let me look at another game that I did have some numbers for last night too, and nothing's really changed this morning with the Rockets and the Nets. Man, the Nets are poo-poo, man. But we're going with Rockets over team total, 114.5. Still get that at minus 110. And I mean, okay, honestly, this whole bet started with me looking at this and going, okay, Nets on a back-to-back. I know what this team's doing right now. They've been backsliding. They're on the road. They're one of the worst defensive teams in the league and on the road now, especially because they've got a 120 or so defensive rating, 119 in that area on the road on the season. And at first we were like, maybe that's been a little bit misconstrued because they had some back-to-backs on the road and they got crushed. No, that's just what it is now. That's just what they are on the road right now, is a team that's giving up about 120 points per game, playing at a slightly faster pace as well. But then, once I dove into it beyond just, oh, wow, the Nets are so bad at defense, which, by the way, let me finish up just how bad by saying also on no rest, they're really bad. 123 defensive rating, and 126 defensive rating in the games that they have no rest this season, allowing 123 a game. We've seen them give up at least 125 or so to teams like the Nuggets and other good teams, and then just beat other bad or lose by smaller amounts, but to bad teams. But they're giving up points, like more points than these teams are averaging on the season. So that's how much I love fading the Nets defense. And then Houston's offense and lack of defense at home. They've been a completely different team at home in the last 7 games, not winning nearly as much as well. We should mention that they were extremely hot, sizzling coming out the gate. I think 10-0 or 9-0, 10-1, right? They were at home, and now they've lost a few games since then and gone under 500 in the last 7 home games or so. But the point is they're scoring 124 a game. They're playing at 102 pace. So I'm starting to buy into it. No Dillon Brooks is actually better oftentimes for their offense, as we know, because he is going to take a lot of doo-doo shots. He's out in this game. That does make things a little bit more seamless on offense, because Şengün, don't look now, is top 4 center in the NBA, for sure top 5 in my opinion. I mean, you can tell me Domas and one other guy might be better than him besides Jokic and Embiid, but I'm not taking too many guys over this dude. Maybe Gobert this season, but point is like with Alpi running the offense and now with Dillon Brooks not in there, the lineup that Şengün's in without Dillon Brooks, much better offensive ratings for reasons that are obvious. He's controlling the ball, and he's their point guard center. He's basically the equivalent of Jokic there, and that's worked really well because his usage rate has gone up a bit. He's been crushing it, scoring over 20 points in like 6 of his last 7 as well, including 5 of 6 at home. So I fully expect him to be in full control of this offense with them sort of a more established identity than they've had on offense, where it's like, you guys play off of this dude. We've got Jabari Smith back. Tari Eason's looking like he's going to play in this game as well. So I'm going to take them to get 115 points when everybody's scoring at least like 118 on Brooklyn when they're on the road.
Yeah, I think you can take the Rockets to cover here. I mean, that was my first inclination, is like, wow, the Nets, yeah. I mean, they have been really screwed by the schedule makers here. I mean, this is like 8-9 games in like 13 days, like barely any time off. And they just punted a game against Milwaukee. And I mean, maybe when you do something like that, it just kind of really affects the fight, the chemistry of your team, when you're just like, we're literally going to throw a game away because we're throwing up our hands at the scheduling. And then, yeah, you saw what the effort they put at in New Orleans last night, which was, again, just like kind of punting. Like, we're not in this. Let's just pull the plug. This team is lackluster right now. And Houston, yeah, everything you said, playing much faster, scoring 120, playing at 100 pace, like looking like an NBA fast-paced offense all of a sudden, and Dillon Brooks being out definitely helps with that game state.
Yep.
So Bucks looking for some revenge at the Pacers here after losing at home to their little brothers in the division. So I'll take a same game parlay, Giannis 30 and 10, and the Bucks to win, even money there. If you want to, if you're a little worried about the Pacers winning again, you could hedge that or take instead Tyrese Halliburton 20 points with those numbers for Giannis. But the Giannis numbers are something that I have the utmost confidence in. I mean, he's coming off a triple-double against Indy, which, Josh kind of sharply pointed out, like maybe his assists are going to go under now, because Indy clearly, after getting absolutely roasted by him in the previous 4 meetings, were like, we got to force the ball out of his hands. We got to get more. And he had 11 dimes, just reading the defense and doing that. Now they have to adjust again and probably give up more down low. Giannis is averaging now 45 points, 14 rebounds, and 6 assists with nearly 18 free throw attempts per game. Again, in his last 5 against Indy, shooting 70% from the floor.
Good
They
for him.
have the opposite of answers. They have questions. Questions and questions arise when Giannis comes to play against this team. He has been motivated after losses. His last 6, averaging 33 a game, 10.5 rebounds, which is a little scary. I mean, the 10 rebounds, 30 points seems like an absolute lock here. I will say though, only 5 of his last 20 has he had single-digit rebounds. So those 2 of those blowouts over Detroit and Charlotte, teams that are not nearly as competitive as Indy will be at home. 2 against the Knicks, a top rebounding team in terms of percentage. And then on odd one where he had 31 and 9 against Washington, and somehow Malik Beasley got 11 rebounds, which is never going to happen again. So, Chris Middleton, legit questionable tonight with knee management. The last 4 he missed. Giannis, put up limited numbers against Detroit once again because those games are not competitive. In the competitive games, he had 36.5 points per game, 15.5 rebounds per game. So, yeah, he should be all over the place and looking to, reassert dominance over this Pacers team.
Yeah, for sure. There's interesting ways to play this game. It's always going to be worth talking about when these two teams play. I'm not worried about the 10 boards for Giannis nearly as much. I do think we get even faster than what we saw on Monday when they played in Milwaukee. Indiana tends to play faster at home. Milwaukee's going to probably have to keep up with them a bit as well there. Pat Connaughton, also a potential late scratch. He is now on the list. And when you see a guy come on to the injury report after he wasn't on it, right, like day of. So yesterday's injury report, no Pat Connaughton. Today's injury report, Pat Connaughton, kind of indicates he's not going to play, to be honest. If you all of a sudden pick something up at like shoot around that they are aware of, doesn't seem like you're going to make a turnaround. So like the idea of him not playing for your bet as well, like it for an under as well. And I'm with a Giannis under bet because it's great juice for my final pick here. I'm not going to make it my pick because I was waffling between 2 of them, and I do think there's a little bit more. I can expect a little bit more from the one I'm going to give. But I'm saying that I don't hate Giannis under 6.5 assists for plus 110 money. Plus, you put that in with a money line parlay for the Bucks, and now you're talking about plus 214 on DraftKings and about the same on FanDuel, a little bit worse. Obviously, shop those if you want them. That said, and the only reason I'm going that angle is because in the 3 previous games before last game that they played Indiana, Giannis averaged 6 potential assists per game. He only had even 7 potential assists in one of those games. The other 2 were under. So without potential assists, you can't get assists. The anomaly to me was 17 potential assists with 11 assists last game, more so than the other games that he played, where it was like you said, Indiana clearly had this take the ball out of his hands mentality, which whatever that means, and he had to go for it. But in this one, especially if Connaughton or Middleton are out, it is a better bet to have fewer shooters around him. And he's going to need to, like you said, come in and bring it on offense via scoring, getting to the free throw line to try to dominate this game after a loss. That one, little less confidence than this one, which is the official bet of Alperen Sengun under 23.5 points. And the Rockets to win, because I do like the Rockets to win. I'm a little bit weirded out by the Nets just dying on last night against New Orleans, and then does that mean that they're saving it for tonight? Because it kind of seemed like the Hornets did that last night when they dicked us in that Kings game, where it was like Terry Rozier didn't play the night before, and then he comes out and is just a monster against the Kings, who aren't trying against the Hornets. Do you see a letdown from the Rockets? It's possible, but getting rid of that 5.5 and just making it a money line bet for them at home makes me feel really comfortable with the Nets on the back-to-back, like we talked about. And so I already talked about why I like the Rockets to score, but I don't like the points specifically to come from Alpi, who, by the way, heretofore Alpi is Alperen Sengun. And the reasoning that I have for it is I do think it's inflated by the fact that it's been 20.5 for most of the season, and then he just goes on a smidge of a tear where he's let me make sure I have this right. Yeah, 26, 28, 24, 30, 37, and 22 points over the last 6 games. Really solid performances, but I don't like who he had to go up against. Like Jalen Duren, great rebounder, not good defender down low. Same with the Pistons overall. Paul Reed was then in when they played the 76ers. There was no Joel in that one. Played Nurkic one-on-one, not a great defender. I don't think he can hang with Alpi's quickness. And then the Pacers, who allow all of the points in the paint, etc. So those weren't Nick Claxton, who, say what you want when you're looking at the dude who looks like he's 200 pounds and 6'11", but he's a really good defender down low. And when you look at what the Nets can do defending field goals inside of 5 feet, defending the paint with and without Nick Claxton, completely different team in the first like couple weeks of the season when Claxton was not really in the lineup. This was a bottom 5 team defending centers. You fast forward to now, they are limiting teams to the 6th fewest field goals made inside the paint, as well as the 5th worst field goal percentage inside the paint, because Claxton is a legit defender. Not to mention Day'Ron Sharpe as well. Sharpe has been in there to sort of bother the opposing centers as well. And the last thing I would say is Jabari Smith and Tari Eason looking like they're playing in this game. Now, Jabari Smith for sure. Tari Eason was questionable after some stuff this morning. Looks like he's going to be playing. That they weren't there. They've been out. And that's a huge part of that. They both missed 4 of the last 6 games where Alpi was doing all this stuff. I think you got a lot more options for him to pass tonight versus score. And this is going to be a pretty, at least like decent matchup for Nick Claxton, who's a very versatile defender at center, more so than most, is going to have an easier time than most centers guarding Alpi out on the perimeter and then following him down to the hoop.
Yeah, and those guys, Tari and Jabari, are going to have success in the open floor. And the Nets, I think, in their last 7 are the worst transition defense in the league. So, yeah, Şengün is a half-court guy when you get into that pick-and-roll scenario, and when you have to feed him in that. But Claxton is a great pick-and-roll defender, like you're saying, and I think the Rockets will be able to score a ton. Look, if we get the same kind of result as we did last night in New Orleans, certainly there's going to be unders all around for the Rockets starting lineup, like 10 points for Zion Williamson last night. So that's one scenario. The other is where this is a more competitive game, but the Rockets are getting, you know, they have more favorable matchups everywhere else instead of attacking Nick Claxton. So I like the call here.
Cool. Yeah, that's the one for sure. Maybe a little sprinkle on Yanni just to look really smart if he does get the under 7 assists in that one. But at any rate, that is all the time we have for you guys in this one. Continue to follow along. Subscribe to that page. Liking the videos is super appreciated. And until we see you next, happy betting.